Hi, I'm Anthony Dallmann-Jones. I'm director of the At-Risk and Alternative Education program at Marian University, a master's program for educators who want to specialize in the field of working with students at risk, who come in all shapes, sizes, colors, walks of life. But I particularly wanted to tell you a story and why this is called End of the Hall. Having many students who are practicing teachers who want to help students at risk often start programs, initiate programs in their school districts because they have that spirit. They're often loners, but they want to start the program. I often get called in to help develop these programs, usually behind the scenes, and I'm honored to do it. I remember a student who had just graduated calling me one day, all excited, saying, "Guess what? They liked my idea, and I get to start the first at-risk program in our high school this coming fall." I was like, "Well, good for you." We'll call her Judy. Good for you, Judy. That's terrific. I knew you could do it. So let me know how it goes. A month later, I get a phone call, and I can hear tears in her voice. And she says, "You aren't going to believe this, Dr. DJ." And I go, "Try me. I've heard quite a few things in this field." She said, "They showed me my room today. School starts on Monday, and it's Thursday, and it's at the end of this hall where there are no other classrooms. Formerly, it was the girls' locker room. It has a steel door on it. It's down by the boiler room, and it's about 15 feet by 15 feet. The windows are about 5 feet off, 6 feet off the ground, and there's a carpet. There are 12 desks, and 6 of them are broken. There's a filing cabinet. There's a video cart, a desk, and a chair. And that's it." So I went to the janitor and I said, "Hey, 6 of these desks are broken." And he said, "That's what the bad kids get." She said, "I only have a few days. I don't know what to do." I said, "Well, let's just talk a minute." So we talked a little bit, and I said, "It seems to me, Judy, you have 2 choices, 2 distinct choices. One is, I know your husband, a good guy, and I know that he and maybe your oldest son could come down there in the next 4 days. You could spruce that place up, fix the desks, paint the walls, put some nice posters up, make it look as cheery as possible, with windows that are above your head looking out on the field. Or you could just leave it as it is. And when the kids come in on Monday, after that first important 5 minutes that we've talked about what to do in that, but after that, you could say, look around you. This is what they think of us. So we have 2 choices. We can feel sorry for ourselves. We can look down on ourselves. We can just try to get along, get through the year. Or we can say, "Oh, really? Well, we'll just see about that." And we can get this room all fixed up the way we want it. We can make it our own. And we'll just show them who we really are. So which do you choose? Talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. I'm sure you can find a third or fourth way, but those things pop to my mind, Judy. Of course, She chose the second one, and of course it worked out beautifully. But that end of the hallway thing has stuck with me ever since. And I've heard so many stories. I sit in a very interesting place, maybe unlike anybody else that we know of. I have students who are active teachers, social workers, jail educators who are working in the field as they come to class. Okay? As they are living their lives, they're also working with students at risk every day. And they tell me things. People used to say, "Oh, online learning is not personal enough. It's it's so distant." I have found, and now maybe it's me, but I have found that students are a lot more personal in online learning. I hear things I never heard, and I'm lucky. I've taught face-to-face for many years, and I've taught online for many years, so I can compare the two. And I can just tell you, I've heard a lot more personal things, heartfelt things, scary things, depressing things, uplifting things, enlightening things over these last 10 years in this program than I ever did in 20 years before that, face-to-face classes. That's a fact. So I had a student who was kind of grumpy one time. He says, "Well, it's obvious Dr. TJ hasn't been in the classroom." I go, "Well, what do you call this? Chopped liver?" No, I haven't been in grade school teaching or high school teaching for many years. That's not my role. That's another class. That's in undergraduate school where they give you all the little, here's how to engage students in a biology lesson, or here's how to handle this discipline problem if it pops up in the third grade. That's not my role. Don't put me in that role because I don't belong there. I did that, and I admit I couldn't do it today. I don't have what it takes to be in the classroom today. That's what you do. That's your job. And you do it damn well. And I'm proud of you for it. But you're going to do it better. And I'm here to help you. That's my job. We have, I'm going to say it, we have a holy trust. Excuse me. Coffee always helps. I mean that. Now, I don't mean holy religious necessarily, spiritual more like. When I set foot on a college campus, physically, I feel something. And I just say, it's like this is the repository of potential truth, of facts, of knowledge, of higher level thinking. Yeah, there's all the other stuff too, but this is where it's supposed to happen, and it does happen. And I feel that way in these classes. We enter a special zone here. This is where we focus on something very specific. And if you're not clear on what that is in this program, here it is, to be more effective in working with students at risk. What does that mean? To be more efficient, to get better outcomes, to help them more. Help them what? Succeed. Not in school. That's a byproduct. Help them succeed in life. Now, it's not easy. We sit here, me talking into a camera, you watching this later. Oh, yeah, those are nice words. It's not easy, and I know it. I've been there. I've worked the streets. I've taught in prison. I've worked with the Police Athletic League. Worked in jails. I know it's not easy. But you know what? That's beside the fact. Here's the important thing. Because it's not easy. What does that mean? It means there's stress. It means we're up against odds. It means we often have colleagues. I had another person start an at-risk program in a northern city in Wisconsin, called me in tears. Said my own colleagues who I worked with for 12 years just turned their backs on me now. They say things like, "Oh, I saw your kids out by the dumpster. You better do something." Like, they smell the garbage. Your kids, they don't sit with me at lunch anymore. So I sit with my kids. She said, "But it hurts." So It's not easy. And sometimes we lose status in the eyes of others because we're working with those kids. But you and I know that we have the highest road. They don't need to know that. It would be nice if people said that. Of course, they go, oh, you guys are great. You work with these kids. You're making a difference, Don't wait on that. But know it's true. We know it's true between us. Between you and me, between you and your fellow students, between you and your fellow teachers who are working in this field. We know it's true, and that's all we need to know, is that we know it. Don't look for appreciation, not even from your students. Don't look for it out there. Look for it in here and amongst us. We'll appreciate you. We'll appreciate ourselves. We appreciate our field because we know we are champions. I'm never a great Queen fan, but that song, We Are the Champions, man, that should be our theme song, because we are the champions for these kids. And many of them have no champions if it's not for us. Not a single one. Some of them have the opposite of champions. They have demons. They have abusive parents, abusive uncles, predators, violators, violence. They live in neighborhoods that are nasty, dangerous, treacherous. Okay? And some of them have lots of money, and they're often in more trouble than street kids. And I think many of you know that the face of at-risk is not always poor little battered children or poverty-struck children, though their odds are higher, much higher, of being at risk. But I worked on Lookout Mountain, where there were 32 millionaires in an area the size of a large field house. It felt that way anyway. And there were more whiskey bottles and stuff. There were so many bottles of booze, empty bottles. They took the necks and stuck them down in the trash on Monday morning. There were a lot of problems in that rich neighborhood, and the kids holding their nose in the air often wound up in very bad situations, especially after they graduated, because being privileged as a child does not carry over into the adult world all the time. And they make some pretty poor choices, thinking they're invincible, and they're not. So often, we're called in to champion those children as well, even though they may sneer at us, even though their parents may look down on us. Again, so what? That's not where we're looking for, what shall I say, accentuation, or looking for acknowledgement that we're doing special work. So often we are put at the end of the hall, but only physically. So even though we're at the end of the hallway physically, it's important not to let that happen professionally. It's too tempting to get into what I call the silo syndrome. And it often happens, it's happened here in Wisconsin to many people, because they start with the idea by themselves, they design the program by themselves, they go and propose it by themselves, and they wind up teaching it by themselves in a room by themselves with students by themselves. And then they continue in that trend. It's like a law of inertia. Once it starts in a direction, it stays in that direction until some force operates upon it. Well, guess what that force is? Stress, which is not the one you want. So they just continue to do it by themselves, and they get burned out. It's easy. It happens easily. So the cure for that, of course, is to make a deliberate, hear me now, deliberate, like planning, like with deadlines, those kind of things, goals, objectives, deliberate plan to establish a social network of like-minded professionals. And there's no better place to do that than in this class. You'll never find a better group than the people you're in class with right now. If you do, let me know. I want their phone numbers. So in your small group or in the large group, if you connect with somebody, seal that connection. So there's like a social connection. If you find people outside this group, maintain that relationship, whether it's through emails or Twitter or Facebook, or maybe one day we can actually face each other without masks. Whatever it takes to maintain that, so that you don't slip into that silo syndrome and get burned out. You're not doing yourself any service, and who are we most concerned about? Our kids. So if you're debilitated, weakened, fatigued, you're not serving them as well as you could. And that's pretty much a sin in our business. I mentioned to somebody yesterday that I realized one day that I was in training in my work. I was teaching and I was counseling, and I realized that it had dawned on me that to stay awake and aware, when I was alert, that I had to be rested and I had to be in good physical condition. I couldn't be overdosed on caffeine or sugar. I couldn't be, getting about 3 hours of sleep and pretending, just to be really caring about somebody when my eyelids kept falling shut. So I trained. I made sure I got my sleep. I made sure I ate right. I made sure that I set limits and boundaries on other people, saying I can't get together tonight. I have to go to the jail to see this student. Then I've got to get my rest because I got a full day tomorrow. And I did that. I allocated time on the weekends to blow out, to do nothing professionally. That was part of my rejuvenation package in my training. But I realized after about a year that to stay at the top of my game, I was in training. I mean, it was just like if you've ever studied somebody training for a fight, they watch their weight and they're getting their rest and they're pumping on certain carbohydrates and they're running, jogging, training so many hours a day. I remember Dorothy Hamill, a great gold medalist in figure skating years and years and years ago. And she was on a talk show at night, and he asked her, he said, well, how much do you train? And she said 6 days a week. I think she said 9 hours a day. And he was like, wow, that must get boring. And she said, without almost missing a beat, she said, well, you've heard of the Zamboni? That's she said we had to get off the ice about every 2 hours, so the Zamboni could come out and clear up all the shavings and smooth out the ice. And she said that would take about 20 minutes. And she said, sometimes I would cry. He said, cry? She said, yeah, I didn't want to be off the ice that long. So our training is part of our work. It's part of our dedication. It's part of our championing. They call it acting. Your vehicle, the body you got to work with, that's your vehicle. The countenance you're going to put on it, the coat of paint you're going to put on it, the inflections, the tone, that's what you offer up to the camera, to the stage. And that's what you offer up to your students. And you've got to realize that intentions are good, thoughts are good, words are good, platitudes are good, slogans are good, mission statements are good, lesson plans are good, but how's the vehicle? Because never forget this. I'll close with this. At the end of that hallway, it's you. And a teacher teaches what a teacher is. That's the main thing you're teaching. So if you're an unhealthy slob, if you're tired, drug out, if you're eating poorly, unrested, grouchy, that's what you're teaching. Don't ever forget that. If you learn nothing else in this whole freaking program, don't forget that. And I'll close on that happy note. We're down at the end of the hallway, but you're no longer alone. I'll see you. End of the hallway.